Hello, welcome back to Sharks Happen. Today we are going to get back into shark attacks. We're going to go over attacks on swimmers, on a scuba diver, on a surfer. We're going to hit just about everything in this episode. So I hope you stick around. It's going to be a great episode. We'll finish off with another one of these occupational hazard attacks. Okay, we're going to start out the show. We're going to go over to Vieux Beach, I believe it is, and that is over in New South Wales, Australia, and the date is December 29th of 2014. Jeff Brown, he is out doing some surfing. His daughter is actually at the beach. I don't know whether she was in the water surfing with them or not, but she's the witness for the size of the shark. That's why I brought her up in this. He's out in the water. It's just in the morning. He said he'd just taken a wave and he was laying on his board. So it sounds like he was laying on his board out waiting for a wave again after he'd just taken one in. I don't think he'd be laying on his board in the shallows, and I think he'd be able to see the shark there. So laying on the board, I'm thinking he's waiting on a wave again. And it's in the morning and he feels a tug on his leg. On his foot, I believe it's his left foot, but either way he goes ahead and feels the bite and then a shake, and he goes ahead and kicks the shark, cutting his other foot, and then the shark lets go of him and swims away. His daughter was the one who saw the shark, said it was about 2 meters, and said that it was a large fin, a large dorsal fin. That makes me, whaler, bull shark, they're going to have a large dorsal fin. Small tiger shark, I don't think, has a large dorsal fin, at least when they get large, like this guy. Their dorsal fin looks kind of small compared to them, and weak like basking sharks. So that's how I can tell the difference between this and a tiger shark, is looking at that dorsal fin usually, unless there's some damage to the tip of this and makes it look like the other one, but I still think it would look stronger. So Jeff Brown gets the attack. He goes in, gets sewed up. It's an attack, not an attempt to predate. We don't know what kind of shark. It sounds like a 2-meter shark, so that would be about 7 feet. So this one will go down in there, just like we said. Okay, now we're going to head over to Alualu, and that is in Maui, Hawaii, and the date is October 18th of 2000. Henrietta Musselwhite, she is 56 years old, and she is out doing some snorkeling. She's out snorkeling about a half mile from shore, but her daughter is in a kayak, and she's about 75 yards from her. Mrs. Musselwhite is in 30 feet deep water, like I said, a half mile from shore, and it's 11:20. There's 2 kayaks, which one is her daughter's, the other one is this Mr. Bass. Mr. Bass is in it, and he's doing these barrel rolls. So he's taking his kayak as he's going along, and he's doing 360 rolls with him going under the water and then coming right back up. He's doing this until there's an officer there. I don't know if it's, fish and wildlife, but somebody tells him, I wouldn't do that. There's been tiger sharks spotted in the area. So he stops doing that, and he says he starts looking over his shoulders as he's going ahead and kayaking. So 11:20 comes along. Both the kayaks are about 75 yards away from Miss Musselwhite. She is sitting there, and all of a sudden, I believe it's her daughter that heard the noise and turned to look. And she could see a gray shape come up out of the water, she said twice, right at her mother, and her mother's screaming. So Mr. Bass and Miss Musselwhite's daughter start paddling their way over. Mr. Bass gets her first and pulls her up onto his kayak, and they start to trip in, telling the daughter, if the shark shows back up, hit it with your paddle, just keep it away from you. So they make their way in. When they get into shore, Miss Musselwhite ends up with a bite to her back, just above her buttocks, and it's to her back. She's got 2 slashes. They say one was 4 inches long and one was 6 inches long on her lower back, and she had a tooth mark in her hip. So it sounds like a single bite incident. They say that this was a tiger shark by the bite, 6 to 8 foot tiger shark that went ahead and attacked Mrs. Musselwhite as she was swimming. She was swimming in a spot that's known for sea turtles too, and that might be what she was doing out there, is looking at the area and looking for sea turtles or whatever. But those tiger sharks are going to be around looking for their food, and they love those sea turtles. So that ended up putting the 2 of them together, and Mrs. Musselwhite ends up going in. She's in the hospital for 2 days, and then she's released. So she recovers from her injuries. No mention of any organs, any nerves or any kind of long-term damage done through this bite. Very quick attack. It sounds like the shark just went on its way. We're going to put this thing down as an attack, not an attempt to predate by a 6 to 8 foot tiger shark, and that's our attack on Mrs. Musselwhite. Okay, now we're going to head over to Alawal Shoal. That is in South Africa. The date, June 28th, 2011. Paulo Stanchi. He is 22 years old. He is from the United States. He's out at Alawal Shoal, and he's been working out there. He's been diving with a dive company that does some cinematic filming underwater. So he's out 5 kilometers, so over 3 miles from shore at the shoal, and he's at the top of the water. It's around noon, and he's scattering some sardine fish around. Now the sardine run is going to come up, and that's kind of what they're there to do, is to check on the sardines when they come in, but they're not there yet. And he scatters these fish around, and suddenly a shark comes up from below, biting him in the leg, and it sounds like he got defensive wounds to his arm. But the damage to his leg was bad enough that it was surgically amputated, and they had to remove his leg. It was damaged so bad in this attack. It turns out that he went ahead and sued this Blue Water Dive, I believe it is. Blue Wilderness, it's called. That's the company that he was diving with that was filming underwater activity. I don't know that they were filming sharks, but this shark came up and attacked him when he was sitting there spreading out those. But he was claiming that they chummed the water first to get sharks in the area to be able to film them. So this ended up being a court case. I don't know the outcome of it. I haven't been able to find a news story on the outcome of it yet. But, you know, you're going to go diving in the water where they're chumming in, you know, filming underwater. You're in the ocean. I don't know, you know, how good of a case he's going to have against that, you know, company that he's been doing it for a month without having a problem. The other thing is the type of shark. This is a dusky shark. This is not a shark that normally does this thing. I'd expect a bull shark to do this to somebody, not a dusky. We've gone over dusky shark attacks before, but this one's the most brutal one I've heard, and the guy ended up losing his leg from the thing. So they go ahead and they talk to Ralph Collier, and Ralph Collier says, well, the shark saw his swim fin and went to bite that. Well, what about the guy's leg that he ended up losing? Ralph? I mean, come on. So, you know, I'm going to put this thing down as an attack, an attempt to predate. The attack was done by a 3 to 3.5 meter dusky shark. So you're talking a 10 to 11 foot dusky shark. That's not a small shark. Understandable that it went ahead and did that much damage with it being that big. That's what I've said before. Lemon sharks have bitten off an arm. This shark caused the loss of a leg, and it's a dusky. Like I said, these sharks can probably remove a limb if they want, and usually they don't want to. Luckily, Paulo Stanchi survives. If I can find any updates on this court case that he had, then I will put it in a episode coming up later on. If not, that's our attack on Paulo. Okay, now we're going to head over to Alassio. That is in Italy, and the date on this is July 17th of 1901. Antonio Tornatore, he is 20 years old, and he is going to go out swimming. He's on a boat. The friends went into the area over by Capo, what is the name of it? Campo Santa Cruz, and he jumped out of the boat and decided to do a swim. And his friends were watching, and he disappeared below the waves. They searched around for him. They couldn't find him. The people in the town started rumoring that he was taken by a big fish, by a big dogfish. Nobody ended up witnessing it, though. Nobody found any remains. Nobody knows what actually happened. It's very possible that he drowned. They say he's a strong swimmer, but even a strong swimmer, some kind of a strange current comes and grabs you. You're not going to be able to do anything about it. So on this one with Antonio, we are going to keep this one as, you know, questionable. Unknown whether it's an attack or not, and I'm going to hang on to the attack, and in the future that's going to go into the spreadsheet as the unknowns, and we'll see how many we have compared to these other sites. So go ahead and look into these attacks. I know we'll have fewer, I just don't know how many fewer, but this is one that I'm not sure about, so we're going to keep it like that. Don't know if it's an attack, not going to go in the books. We're going to hang on to it. If we find any other information in the future, we'll change it. Okay, now we're going to finish off our unprovoked attacks over at Martinique, and that is in the French West Indies. And this attack happened in 1954. Bernard Vieux, he's a researcher, it sounds like, shark researcher, maybe, but he's in the water and he's doing some research. And he was telling an associate about a weird thing that happened when he was diving down in the water. He was in the water and a 6-foot nurse shark came up, and it came up to him up along his chest and attached itself to his chest. And not only did it do that, but it took its pectoral fins, the side fins, and wrapped them around his body like it was hugging him. And he was only able to get free by forcibly pushing the shark off of him. So he had told this researcher friend of his about this happening, and the guy says, well, that sounds kind of incredible. I don't know that happened. So he showed him the wound on his chest from where the two little teeth marks are and where the suction was, where he pushed it off of him. So he actually had the damage to his chest. So this 6-foot nurse shark came up and attached itself to his chest and gave him a hug. And, you know, I guess a kiss and a hug that tore up his chest when he pushed it off. Probably bled quite a bit. That's why a lot of times they take these nurse sharks in and they kind of cut them off of them in operating rooms or up on beaches, because that suction is so strong it's going to do some major damage when they rip it off of there. So luckily for him, it's in a place where you don't have a lot of skin and you don't have a lot of meat to be able to take that off of there. And that's the attack on Bernard Vieux. We'll get to the end of the show, which is another, we kind of went over an occupational hazard already with this incident here, maybe one before this one, but we definitely have one coming up, and then we'll have a little bit of a mention about shark research that somebody brought to my attention that's going on. It's actually starting to tag sharks, and then we'll get into a little bit of a story about broken bow rail. It's the best fishing story I have, so stick around. Okay, now we're going to finish off our show with another one of these occupational hazard attacks, and this is going to take place on March 22nd of 1931. We're going over to Townsville, to Ross Creek, and that is in Australia. And we have Arthur Tomida. He is 19 years old and he's a shrimper. It's 5 o'clock in the evening and he's at Ross Creek. It looks like by the map he's a good 2 miles into the creek, so upriver from the ocean. And he's throwing his shrimp net and it gets hung up on something out there. So he's got to wade his way out. He gets into about 4 feet of water and he's trying to untangle the net, and a shark comes up and removes a large portion of the posterior thigh. So removed most of that meat from the upper part of his leg, and he passed away shortly after he got into shore. He was only 20 yards from shore when he got attacked. Like I said, in 4 feet of water, and it was 5 o'clock in the evening. They didn't identify the shark, but you know, being that far up out of the ocean, likely a bull shark. I mean, there aren't a lot of sharks that go up into rivers like that, and some probably will with the tides, with 100% water. But I don't know that they would attack a person, that they would even bother with them. Being in such a foreign place, which is so normal for a bull shark. So I'm going to put this down as a bull shark. It's probably a pretty large one. So it's going to go in our stats as an attack, not an attempt to predate by whatever size bull shark, and a fatality, unfortunately, for Arthur Tomida. And that is our attacks. That's our show for the attacks. Stick around. We're going to get into a little bit of extra shark research that is actually just beginning, that I've been saying that we needed for a while, and I kind of like which shark they're doing it with too. So stick around, we're not done yet. Okay, Australia. Over in Australia, Ali sent me the link on this, and the researchers there, the marine biologists there, they're going to look into the Gold Coast, or the Sunshine Coast, which that's the University of Sunshine Coast marine biologists, I believe, that are doing this study. But they're tagging bull sharks. They're going through and they're tagging the bull sharks there, and they want to find out how many are there. They say there's either a ton of them or there's none of them, and they want to find out which it is. Excellent. That's what you should be doing. That should be top of line for all these dangerous sharks. is tagging them, find out what the numbers are, find out what the numbers are in the area, and then you'll be able to tell if there's more sharks there, if there's less sharks there, if the sharks have moved on, without being able to get a number, or at least a feel for how the numbers are on there. You're never going to have a feel for are the shark numbers up, down, what's going on. You don't need to know them all, but you know in the areas, you can know the numbers that are in that area, and it can tell you whether they're growing or shrinking, I think. So it's a good thing to do. University of Miami, same thing. They've done I think it was 21 study on bull sharks pups that they're having their babies, and they went up the rivers and checked out the little off-stream little lakes, deposits there, things that are off of the river where the bull sharks can sit there. That's where they have them, and it's normally in brackish water, mild brackish water at the least. So it's not fresh water they're having these things in. It's still salt water that they are in. It's just not enough salt water for the adult, because the adult gets in there and gets into that lowish brackish water. And I think it might have been the same University of Miami that did the study on that. But they get dehydrated because, yeah, they retain salt, but once they get into the less saltier water, they start oozing salt out of their body, and that just dehydrates them and makes them twice as bad. So, you know, large adult bull sharks do not like to stay in that water. They have their pups and they get back out into the ocean. That I wanted to bring up, that they are going to look into numbers, at least the bull sharks along the Sunshine Coast there. I guess they looked at the Gold Coast before, but now they're going to look at the Sunshine Coast. So at least people are looking into numbers instead of looking at color changes of great whites. So that's a good thing. The other thing is I still don't see much tiger shark activity going on over at my Norfolk Island. That's my favorite island to watch over there by Australia, because that thing, you can usually see, it looks like one or two sharks that are pinging, and then you zoom into that thing and it turns into like a dozen sharks at the high season when they're pinging, and there's so many of them. I knew that little island had to be just teeming with food for them, so I guess there's a bunch of seals or something on that island. It's kind of cool to be able to look at that and see, but I'm wondering if if these devices that they tagged them with, they only last a certain amount of time and they're going to stop working. So I really don't keep up. I don't know if there's a way to check and see how many new tags are being put in per year by OSearch, so that you could, continue to have the same research of the same sharks in the same area. Maybe I'll try to look into that. But I wanted to bring that up, that the OSearch, these studies that are looking into how these pups are being had and how they hang out in rivers, because we all have that question. If these things are in the rivers, why don't we have these attacks? I have people ask me about the attacks all the time. Now, we do have attacks in brackish waters. You had one in the Louisiana lake there, Pontchartrain. You had one in the Intracoastal, which is over in Florida. They happen in the rivers like the one we just covered on the end of this one. That's a couple miles up the river. That's in brackish water. It could be with the tides and being mostly 100% ocean water, but it could be brackish water with the bull shark there. But everything I'm seeing, that these sharks, when they get less and less salt, they have a harder time floating. Harder time staying up off the surface of the floor. So you remove so much salt and they're just going to sink is what I think. And if they went ahead and put a bull shark in fresh water, that's what they would see. Shark just sink itself to the bottom. It's going to swim around for a while, but once it's tired, that's game over. That's at least what I think, and that's why I think there isn't a freshwater aquarium on the world with a bull shark in it. Got another attack sessions, another tech show that's going to be coming up in the next few days. I also have, I think I'm going to do a couple of individual attacks that are going to be coming up too. And I'm taking next week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 70s down in Georgia. So end of the month, that means I'm heading down to see my daddy and do some more fishing and golfing. So for you shark people, that'll be the end of the show here. For anybody that wants a fishing story, maybe hang out for a few minutes here and we'll get that out of the way. So this is real early when I was going down. This is probably about 12 years ago when I was going down to see my dad down in the Keys when he first moved down there. Had his boat, 23-foot Mako or something like that, 22-foot Mako. Got a name change. I don't know what the name was of the boat before this incident. So I am a very motion sickness affected person. Car drives, when I drive down to the Keys, when I drive straight through, when I sit down and lay down to go to sleep or sit down on a couch, it's moving like the car. And this happens for hours. So I'm very motion sickness, and I can't go out on Lake St. Clair, let alone the ocean when there's waves out there. And this is before I found medication that could keep me from getting sick. So this was a very rough day out on the water where we like to fish, which is usually out by the drop-off looking for tuna, not tuna, looking for the wahoos or the dolphin that we go after. So we wanted to go out fish, but we didn't want to go out. So what we did was, you have the road, the main highway US 1, and you have bridges, and next to the bridge there's the old bridges that have just the pilings of the bridges. So we went out and we decided just to park the boat in between the bridge and the old bridge pilings, and we're about 30 feet from the pilings, and we're anchored and we're fishing. We went out a little bit late in the day for when we go out. Usually we go out in the morning. This time we went out about 11:30, something like that. So we're out there and we're fishing, and all we're doing is we have a hook and a little piece of ballyhoo, and we're just chucking that out there. So you can't cast very far. When I'm casting at that piling that's only 30 feet away, I can't reach it because I just have a bait and no weight at all. So it's not going to go very far. It's a little bit windy, but not bad. So we're fishing, and we must have fished an hour before we caught the first fish. I caught a fish, I reel it in, it's a puffer fish. It should have been a sign for the day, a puffer fish all puffed up. Put him back, we give him back to the ocean, and now we're fishing some more. And then my dad catches a fish. He catches a little, I don't know if it was a pinfish, if it was a small grunt. Whatever it was, he caught it and he was like, I'm going to use this for bait. Like I said, we were using little pieces of ballyhoo, a little skinny fish. So now he's going to use this fish and just chuck it out there and let fish have a live fish to go after. So he casts it, and he can get it about 50, 60 feet away because it's got a lot of weight on there. And he gets it out there, and the first thing I notice is, I don't know, I didn't watch his cast. I think I watched him cast it, but I was busy with my rod. And I hear him complaining. I turn around and look. And he's reeling in, and a bird went and grabbed his fish. And now he's reeling in a fish from about 30 feet up above the boat. I've never seen that. So I'm laughing already about this thing. He gets it out of away from the bird, and he reels it back in. And he says, just before he casts it, he says, I'll show you. He cast that thing a mile, and that bird came and grabbed that. So now it's got a lot more line. This bird is up there over 100 feet with his fish. He's down there going, give me that, you son of a bitch. And I'm on the floor of the boat laughing about this. We get done with that, and now we're about an hour and a half into this, and I finally catch a good fish. I catch a Spanish mackerel. It was about, I don't know, 18, 20 inches, very beautiful fish. Silver, kind of a skinny type fish as far as the profile of it, but it's silver, and it's got just a little thin line of like rainbow colors going along the center of it. Coolest looking fish I'd ever had. So, like I said, we were using one little piece of bait, and I can't reach that piling. Well, I catch this, finally a keeper, the Spanish mackerel, and he's like, hey, put a bigger piece on there, see if you can't get a bigger one. So I take a huge piece of ballyhoo and put it on there and cast towards that piling. Of course, it shoots over the piling, and I'm stuck. I gotta tell him I'm stuck. I'm like, oh shit. So, hey man, I'm over that piling there. I'm stuck. He says, you can't even cast to that piling. I said, no, but you told me to use a bigger piece of bait. That is my dad's move for me. I've made him slap himself in the forehead. He should have a handprint on his head for as much as I've done stuff like this. So break the line, we go ahead, we can continue fishing for maybe another hour without catching anything. He's caught one fish that was a throwback. He caught the one that the bird ended up in the air. I caught the puffer fish and the Spanish mackerel. That's it. 3 hours we're out there. So finally we're like, let's get out of here. And he goes to start the engines. Nothing's doing anything. Can't start one, can't start the other. I mean, you got 2 motors on the damn thing. Neither one of them are starting 2 of these damn engines. And so now we're screwed. Well, he's like, well, I'll just, grabs his phone. He says he'll call Boat US, the professionals. He tells me I'm going to call the professionals. Boat US. He's a member of Boat US, and you can call for a tow anytime you need. It's included in your membership. So he calls. Now we're sitting there, and I mean 40 minutes go by, and finally off in the distance we see the little red boat. We know this is it because it's a red boat and it's on its way. So another 5-10 minutes go by. So 45 minutes we're sitting there from the phone call, and this boat comes up and it bounces off our boat. I mean, it bounced off it. I'm sitting in the driver's seat of the boat. My dad's kind of standing up in the front, and the boat hit so hard I think it almost knocked him off balance. And then it bounced off the boat again, and we look at each other like, what the hell? So the guy says, oh, sorry, and then he goes and he says, well, here, let me, and he tosses my dad the rope. He's got the rope put on his boat, and now he tosses it to my dad. And my dad's like, well, you probably want to go inside of the canopy. He threw the rope to my dad to the outside of the canopy, which if it would have tightened up, it would have taken the canopy and just ripped that part right off on that end and straightened out the line. So he's like, oh, it's not my boat. And we look at each other again, you know, he said the professionals. So geez, so he's tying all this off, and he's like, all right, we got to get towed to here, and the thing is we have a straight shot and a straight left turn. A pretty wide, it's not a real narrow canal for over there. It's a pretty wide one. But along the opposite side, both sides have the lifts. They have the boats up on the lifts, and the lifts are aluminum, and they stick up out of the water, and they have things to stick out. So we know we're going to make this turn up there, but as we're being towed in, we're looking at each other because we're like a football field. No kidding. We're about 100 yards behind this boat being towed in. And we're going to have to make the sharp turn, of course, and we're discussing how we're going to deal with the boat when we get it in there. But now we're discussing how far back we are from the boat towing us. I'm like, what the hell? So we get up to the entrance of the channel of the canal, and he slows his boat down, stops it from going forward, and he goes ahead and he comes back. He yells, I'm going to shorten up the rope for you. So you see him grab the rope a little bit like this, goes to wrap it around, and by the time he tied it off, we hadn't been no closer than he was. He goes up and starts towing us down the last leg before the turn. Oh, no. Jesus. So he's towing us at a decent pace. Not too fast, not too slow. We're probably doing, you know, it's a no wake zone, so we're not doing too fast at all. But the length of this rope, and with our momentum and no steering, we're not going to be able to turn. We're going to be heading straight for that wall. So as long as he doesn't speed up at all, I think we'll be able to hold the boat off by holding on other boats. Now we get over to the right side of the boat because we're making a left turn. We're standing on the right side of the boat. I am standing right next to the center console, so where the captain's chair is. I'm right next to that. My father's in front of that. He's kind of in front of the whole console itself. So there's the floor or there's the bench right in front of the console there. And we're standing there waiting to stop the boat. But just as he's already turned the corner, like I said, we're doing a decent pace, and we hear him gunning a little bit. And I know what he wanted to do with this gunning of the engine. He's thinking if he gunned it, it would pull us more that way. But that's not the case because there was so much slack that we're still moving this way even though he's trying to pull us this way. And what it did was sped up our approach to these boats and to these launchers. So we're both ready for this now. It gets over to the boats, and we grab onto the boat, and it's everything I have to hold this thing back. And he's doing the same thing right next to me. we're doing this, I can see out of this, my periph, you can see those launchers, the aluminum pegs that the boat sits on, are now inside of the bow rail of our boat. So we kept it to a stop, just missing where the boat would touch the launcher or the other boat. And I swear, we turned to look at each other. We were both probably going to say the same thing. I can't believe we did that. We didn't even get to look at each other for more than a split second. Neither one of us could say anything, and we heard a noise. We heard the gunning of a boat motor. And what happened next is just pure, I guess, reflex. You don't even think about it. Heard that noise, and I'm in the middle. I dove right into the middle of that, where the seat is for the captain. I'm on the floor there. My dad did the same thing, but he was in the front of the boat. So he's somewhere in the front of the boat. I don't know where he is. I can't see anything. I'm on the floor in the center of this thing, hearing pop, 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 as the boat is being pulled. I know what the popping is. That's the bow rail and the pegs, the sticks that hold it in place going around your side of your boat. So I'm like, well, damn. So I go ahead and I stand up. So, you know, the bow rail looks normal on the left side. What happens is I stand up, and my father's already stood up. He's already stood up, and he's obviously already checked out the damage. I look at him, and he's standing there like this, with the look on his face. First of all, the look on his face made me fight with all my life not to laugh like I do when I'm telling this story. I just wanted to die laughing. But I can't. He's awfully pissed. Rightly so. So I stand up and I look at him. He's got that look in his face. His arms are like this. But the thing I see behind him in the whole picture is on the left side, the nice looking bow rail where it should be. And then you get to him, and the piece that was on the right side is bent up over his head. So this bow rail. I'm seeing him standing there like this with a bow rail bent over his head that shouldn't be there at all. It's everything I could do not to stop, not to laugh. And the only thing that helped me was what happens next. We're still being pulled. We have about 6 houses to go, 6 decks, 6 docks, and then it'll be ours. So he's pulling us along, and we're moving at a good clip again. Well, now we don't have brakes. we get almost there. He says, grab the posts. We had to run over and grab our dock posts to stop this runaway boat. Boat is stopped. I still want to laugh. I tell him I'm going up to jump in a shower. I know he's got to deal with this stuff now. I'm up and out of there. And I did. I went upstairs and did nothing but jumped in the shower. Now I'm still trying to keep myself from laughing, because I'll be like any of those bloopers that you see in a movie. Once I start laughing, I'm going to it's going to repeat itself in my head, and I'm not going to be able to stop. So I'm making sure I'm still not laughing in the shower, just running this all through my head this whole day. The fish up in the air, the boat not starting, the tow job, the bouncing off the boat, saving the boat, only to hear pop, pop, pop after we do. And I come out of the shower and I get dressed and I'm coming down. I'm going to go down and see, make sure everything's going well down there. And my dad's coming up. He's got these spiral staircase that's 3rd floor that we were up on. And he shows up on the spiral staircase. And he is laughing the way I wanted to be laughing. What the hell happened? He'd normally be pissed. So he gets up there and he's like, yeah. He says, I'm down there and I'm getting the information. My wife Mickey, she took the pictures of the boat, so they have those. He's getting the information for towboat Boat US, so that they can fix his bow rail. And he says that the guy, this professional that gave us our tow, towards the end, he's getting him to sign his paperwork, and he says, does this boat have a name other than Broken Bow Rail? And my dad says, I'm so mad at myself because I should have said, yeah, shitty tow job. So now, when we run into professionals, we're talking about. Jesus. So that's the story of our little trip that we took out that day. But it's not the end of the story because there was go to sleep that night. So I think we were leaving the next day, me and my wife, and I'm trying to get to sleep. And as I'm laying there, I'm laying on my stomach, otherwise I'll snore. So I'm laying on my stomach and the stuff is going through my head. I'm watching this like a movie in my head through this thing. It starts with giggle, and then it just works its way up to this hardest laughter you could think. And I'm shaking the whole damn room, the bed and everything with this laugh. And that would happen for about 10 minutes and I'd be okay. And then it would start again. This happened for hours that night. I couldn't get to sleep. I was laughing so hard. So that is how the Mako became to be known as broken bow rail. Crazy story. I just wish I had a picture of my dad standing in front of that thing bent up over his head behind him. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, not to laugh at something. So that's the story of that. That is by far the most ridiculous fishing trip we've ever had. And we didn't even go out far, luckily. We were right next to the road. Normally we'd be, anywhere from 3/4 of a mile to 5 miles out there, 10 miles sometimes when we're after dolphin. So it was a good thing that happened on that day. That was one of the good things. But man, what a crazy story. And there's a couple pictures of the boat, that towed us, the professionals. And that's it for the show. I hope you'll join me in a few more days. Hopefully I'll get you a single attack in between then, but a few more days we'll have another full attack show that goes into our stats if they're qualified. And until then, if you go into that water, you are much more afraid of those sharks than they are of you.